Hey guys, so number 4. So we're still in John. We're just going to go over to verses 21 to 27. So John 13, John 13, verses 21 to 27. Now we just covered the whole foot washing thing, and I hope that made sense to you guys. But he talks on there. There's a bit in between there that we didn't really read through, but you will when you do your reading and your study. And it just talks about like who he says, who receiveth me is kind to me, and is troubled in spirit, and there's some things that he says in there, and just about helping others and accepting others and loving others. And then he feels that he's troubled in his heart. This is 21 through 27. So in 21, when Jesus had thus said, he was troubled in spirit, and testified and said, Verily, verily, I say unto you that one of you shall betray me. Now, he already knows, as we said earlier, that it's Judas Iscariot. He knows this. And Judas is still sitting there, knowing that he's going to go do what he's going to do. So yeah, Jesus said that. I know one of you is going to betray me. When the disciples looked on one another, doubting on whom he spake, they're all kind of like going, is it you? Is it, It's like sitting in sacrament and somebody said, there's a bomb, and somebody here bought it, and you're like looking at the person next to you or the person behind you, and you're thinking, oh, I bet it was brother so-and-so. Like, there's always that, we all think it's this person, but they don't know. They're looking around. I don't know. Who's going to betray you? And 23, now there was leaning on Jesus' bosom, like here, sort of, leaning on him, like friends do, one of his disciples whom Jesus loved. Who's that? John. And Peter therefore beckoned to him that he should ask who should be of him who spake. So this is John writing in like third person. He's writing an account rather than saying, I was there. No, it's just there. So Peter looks at John and goes, ask him, who is it? So John then says, Lord, who is it? Jesus answered, he said, He it is to whom I shall give a sop when I have dipped it. And when he had dipped the sop, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon. And after the sop, Satan entered into him. Then said Jesus unto him, that thou doest, do quickly. So it's interesting that the other accounts will say that Peter asked Christ directly, but it indicates here from John, who was right next to Peter, right next to Jesus, that like Peter's gone to John, ask him, and John's gone, who is it? And that's how it came about. So you will see this story in all 3 chapters this week, where they say, Lord, is it I? Or Jesus, is it me? This week's, you will see the chapters this week. So John's account is probably the most detailed of this. That's why I picked this one. And Peter worried it was him that would betray Christ, as this is not something he would do. So that's why he indicated, ask who it is. Lord, is it I? Who is it? Lord, who is it? That's what he wants to know. So Jesus then indicated who, then said to Judas Iscariot, because we all know who it was, in verse 27, what you're about to do it quickly. As in, don't muck around. I've done everything for you. You've sat at my feet. You've, learnt from me. And I know this has to happen. But I'm hurting that you've done this. Or you're going to do this. So just go do it. Get it done. I don't want to discuss it with you. I don't need all the explanations in the world or your reasoning. And that's the same when we sin now and have a problem now. He doesn't need all our reasoning and our excuses and everything. He just wants a sincere apology and to not do it again. Or an effort to not do it again. He wants us to sincerely come and say, I've really mucked up. And sadly, as we know, Judas felt terrible and did die by suicide. And it's awful, and someone had to do it, and it's like that he was the one that was let Satan in. So we can learn from this in a good way about how do we avoid putting ourselves in a position like Judas? Like, what led to that point, and how can we not get to that point? What perhaps was his downfall? What was it? Was it that he wasn't feeling as favored? Was there a weakness in there that Satan picked away at, and then Judas Iscariot started listening to that? And can we improve on that? And what can we do to build, not to tear down? We want to build up, not tear down. And what Judas Iscariot did, tore down. For good reason, yes, but still, you don't want to be that person. Like, there's plenty of other people that are willing to sell out for money. And really, as Elder Holland teaches too, this is probably the least amount of money for the most famous crime, right? 30 silver coins. It's not even a whole lot of money. It's not riches of the world. They had gold. He did it for 30 silver coins. Like, that's 30 pieces of silver. It's like, for the fame of this crime, it's not really worth it, is it? And it definitely wasn't worth it. And that's why I think Judas felt so bad. So what was his downfall? Let's look at this in a positive light and learn from it rather than just condemn someone, because we don't know what his downfall was. What was his weakness? What got to him? And how can we strengthen those weak places within us? How can we fortify those places so that we don't have those chinks in our armor that Satan can pick at, and be aware of what those are so that when he does start getting in there, we can be like, oh no, I know what that is. Out. Let's look at that. We've all got them, and whether we want to openly admit them or not, we know what they are. We can identify them. We might not share them or talk about them in Relief Society or Sunday school or across the pulpit at church, or even to people that we know and love in our own family, but we know what they are. We know what our weaknesses are, and they might be small, and to you, you're thinking, oh, that's just a small one, I'll be okay. It's like, but that small one, if picked at, will get a lot bigger. And Satan is really good at doing that. So, how can we be better to not let Satan be good? Yeah, that's pretty much it. C.S. Lewis. Now, this is good. Now, I know, not allowed yes, doesn't matter. Really, really good. This is good. He said, since it is likely that children will meet cruel enemies, let them at least have heard of brave knights and heroic courage. And I was thinking of Judas Iscariot, and I'm like, I don't know any of their upbringings or what they were like. But it was likely that he was going to meet cruel enemies, and he did. He met Satan. Horrible enemy who was cruel to him. Maybe he'd meet some other people that were cruel to him, and that was his downfall because he'd never had that before. So let them at least have heard of brave knights and heroic courage, because that's what Jesus is, brave knight with heroic courage. And there's Peter, James, and John, same thing. The woman that surrounded Christ, some of the other apostles that surrounded Christ. Brave knights, heroic courage. And we can look to that. And what did they do? What was the difference in their stories? What was the difference in their decision making, in their commitment, in their all sorts of different ways of being? And we can know that without having to know their history, because that part isn't recorded that we know of. One day we might, but we don't know right now. What we do know is their character right now, of what we can read. And what in that tells us and teaches us of what we can do and be better at, so that we don't have these downfall moments, that we're not putting ourselves in the position that Judas ended up in. What can we do? Teach the children, teach yourselves that there are brave knights and heroic courage. Even today, it's not all bad. They are going to meet cruel enemies, but there are heroes. Jesus Christ is the biggest of them all. And there is courage still out there from very faithful people and good people. The world still has more good people than evil. It's just that the evil is loud, so we need to be louder. There you go. Alrighty, so we're going to finish off in verses 34 to 35. This is sort of what it all led up to. And it's, I think, in our day and age, more about us. So let's go have a look at that. I'll see you there.